Hello guys, this is Akshay Daga, and in this video we will talk about how to create your own user defined exception class. Okay, in our previous video we have talked about all kind of exceptions, how to handle that, how to raise your own exception, but this time I'll talk about how to create your own exception class. I'm creating this video just after exception, but before watching this video, one disclaimer that you will need some basic knowledge about class, object, that is object oriented programming about Python. Anyway, I'm going to cover those topics in my future videos, but since this topic is related to exception, I'm creating this video just after exception video. Okay, so if you don't understand fully whatever topic I cover in this video, please be patient, watch my further videos about classes, objects, and all about that oops concept, and then you can come back to this video and watch this. And one more thing I forgot to mention in my earlier videos, whatever code I write on the screen, all that codes will be available for you. Just go to the description and there you will find a link for that. So without wasting time, let's start. I'm sharing my screen right now. You can see a Jupyter notebook, and I'll tell you how you can write a user defined exception class. First of all, what is the need of writing your user defined exception class? In my earlier video also I told you, let's say you, like as per the logic for your programming, if you want to accept only positive numbers from the user, so user will enter some number and that number can be anything, -5, 0, +5, or any number, and that is not a error from Python point of view or logical point of view, but as per your logic you just want only positive number. So what you want to do, you want to raise your own exception. If user enters a negative value in a runtime environment, there should be a exception. A exception should be raised, and for that you need to write your own class, right? So in such scenario, that was a very simple example. But in such scenarios, you need to write your own user defined exception class. So I'll write a basic example just to show syntax and everything, and then I'll give you example for that negative number exception. Okay, so just follow the syntax. All that syntax will be covered in my future videos. So I'll write class my exception, and I'll derive this newly written class from a parent class, which is widely ready-made, like built-in available in Python, and that class is exception. Okay, this is a super class for exception. All kind of exceptions are there, available there. Once that is done, what I'll write, I'll write raise exception. But before that, okay, I'll just write init function, constructor function. What is init function and constructor function? I'll cover that in my future videos. And I'll write this is my user defined exception class, and name of that is my exception. Fine. Similarly, if I want to pass some message while raising this exception, so that should be stored in a variable. So I'll write message over here. Okay, and I'll print message, comma, str of message. Okay, I'll check this, whatever I have written is correct or not. This is my notes. Okay, fine. Now this is how you can write a exception class. Now ran it, it compiled successfully. Now I want to raise this is a user defined exception class. This is how you can create your own exception class. Now I want to raise this exception. How can I do that? I'll show you. Just a simple keyword raise, and there I'll pass my exception, and whatever message I want to pass, I can pass it over here. So this is new message, or I'll write this is user provided. This message is provided by developer. Just I'm writing this. Let's see what happens. Okay, exception is raised. Now you can see what is an exception class name. My exception, right? Just like built-in exception, it is shown over here, and whatever message is provided, that message is shown over here. This message is provided by developer, right? While raising the exception, whatever you will pass will be passed over here. So that is done. Now you can see oh, okay, fine. I didn't do it in my, did I do it in my case? No, I didn't do it. Fine, I made a mistake. I just message equal to message. What is that? I'll talk about it in my future class. Self.message equal to message. We'll talk about that. And I don't need to write any print message over here. So for now, I'll not print anything. Let's see what happens. I'm just running it once again. That is fine. Whatever message, okay, that's completely fine. If I print, keep the print as it is. Now you can see, okay, because of this print, whatever I have provided in that print is printed over here. Okay, you can see, and whatever message I have provided over here is stored in this variable message. This message is transferred to self.message. Okay, so that's why whatever I pass there will be printed over here. This is the name of my exception class, and this is the message provided by the user. So this is how you can do that. So that was a simple example. Now let's talk about more logical real-time example. But before that, I'll tell you that this is how you can raise your own exception. Now I'll show you how you can handle that exception as well. So exception handling, we are aware of that. You will write try, and then within try, I'll raise an exception. The same thing, raise my exception. Okay, and I'll pass a message. Exception raised by me, by Akshay Daga. This is just a message. Now I'll try to handle that, and to handle that, what we write? We write except block, and with the except block, and I'll write my exception, because if we are raising this exception, we should handle the same exception as E, and I'll print E. Let's see what happens. Now I have raised this exception. The same exception is handled over here and printed over here. So that's why, see, you can see this. This is a print which I have written in this class, and exception is raised by Akshay Daga. Whatever message I'll pass in this exception while raising the exception will be written over here. This is how you can handle your own exception. Since while writing this exception class, we have derived it from the super class. So that means this is a member of this super class, exception class. So instead of this, if I try to write something like this, instead of, while handling that exception, if I mention the super class as it is, let's see what happens. Logically, it should be able to handle the exception, because we have directly, while handling the exception, we have called a super class, and our class, our user defined class, is a derived class from the super class. If you are not understanding this, please go through my object oriented videos for Python and watch this. After all those videos, you will get to know all the things. See, even after handling the exception using super class, exception class, it is handled correctly. Why? Because I have done the I have derived my exception class using this super class. So that's it. Now if we want to talk about that example, negative number, so what I'll write a equal to input, and I'll convert that into int. Okay, and I'll write if a is less than 0, then raise my exception. right? And I'll write given user entered a negative number, right? And if I do this, let's see, if I uh, provide some positive number, then it's fine. But if user provides some negative number, you can see a exception is raised. And now we know how to handle that. I'll show you. To handle that, I'll put all those things in a try block. And then I'll write a except block, and I'll call the superclass as it is. Instead of that, I can write my exception also, but I'll just call superclass so that it will handle other kind of errors also. So E, like print E, and let's try what happens. If I do this, if I provide some positive number, that no problem. If I provide some negative number, then a exception is raised and that is handled. Okay. And if I provide some non-number numerical, some string value, exception is raised. Okay. And that exception is handled. You can see that warning message, error message is different, but still because we have raised the handled exception using superclass, that kind of exception is also handled. Instead of this, if I do something like that, my exception, and then see, it will create a problem. Now it will handle that negative wala exception. Okay, that will be handled. But if I pass some non-number value, that exception is not handled. Why? Because exception was raised because of this line of code, and while handling that, we just try to handle our own we are just mention our own class name. So our class name just will handle this kind of exception, not other exceptions. That's why. So it is a good practice. Instead of while handling the exception, if you are not sure like what kind of exception can come into picture, then it is a good practice. Try to handle the exception using superclass. That is like this. Using exception class, it will handle almost all possible errors, all possible exceptions. So that's it, guys. I hope you got some knowledge from this video. You understood how you can write your own exception class, and how to handle that, how to raise that, how to handle that, all those things, different ways, and what is the standard method, what you should do if you are confused, what kind of exception might come while in runtime. So all that is covered. If you got some knowledge from this video, please do anything and everything you can do to encourage me. Like this video, share, comment, subscribe, do each and everything to encourage me. This is Akshay Daga signing off. And once again, whatever code you are seeing on the screen will be available for you. Just go to the description and click on the link. You will find the code there. Thank you. Bye. Tata.